Welcome to the regular Guy Vikings Hour. Thank you so much for joining me. This is our 20th show, and this show is going to be about the draft. It is draft day today. It's about T minus 5 hours away, so let's get into it. All right, thank you for joining me. I'm just going to start you off with a few show notes. So, number one, the hour-long format will be changing, so I'm not going to change the name of the show. It's still going to be the regular Guy Vikings Hour, but I'm going to start giving you a little bit more bite-sized chunks, right? So I'm going to start doing shows that are maybe more about 15, 20, 30 minutes long, depending on what the subject matter is. When I first started the hour-long format, it was because that was something that I was looking for personally. I would find myself listening to shows that were anywhere from like 20 minutes to 40 minutes, and I'd be doing things like driving somewhere, doing the dishes, or just doing some kind of mindless task and thinking, man, I just really wish there was a Viking show where I could just kind of pop it on in the background and just listen for an hour. And I felt like that was something that other people were going to want. But just based on what I'm seeing in terms of like what people are viewing, you guys are way more interested in watching like some of the shorter clips and stuff. So I'm going to reduce the size of the show down, and hopefully that'll kind of motivate you guys maybe to give my show a little bit more of a chance. And it's not so daunting to have to watch like an hour plus long show. You can kind of take a nice little 15-20 minute chunk at a time. So anyway, in addition to that, please don't forget, I've been posting it and reposting it all over my Twitter and my Blue Sky that I am going to be going live both tomorrow and Saturday. So I believe day 2 of the draft starts at 4 p.m. Pacific, so I'll be going live 3:30 Pacific. And then on Saturday, day 3 starts at 9 a.m. So I'll be going live 9 a.m. Again, that's all Pacific Standard Time because I live in California. I also put my own personal NFL draft value chart. This one is just specific to the 2025 draft. Obviously, it changes each year. But I've got that. It's actually pinned to my profile on both my Twitter and my Blue Sky, so you can go check that out. If you're looking for a chart that is maybe a little bit more comprehensive than some of the other charts you're used to looking at, I really feel like I put a lot of thought into mine and a lot of effort, and I think it really does kind of read the values a little bit better than most out there. So anyway, check that out if you're interested. And then finally, I have put out a couple of predictions on, again, Twitter and Blue Sky. Just I had 5 names of players that I think we're going to draft, kind of calling my shot on those guys. And then I also put out a list of an undrafted free agent class that I think guys will be interested in post-draft. There's always going to be a couple of unexpected fallers, guys that maybe are projected to go 4th, 5th round that you can't really make calls on that. There's too many guys to choose from. But plenty of guys who are, looking to go around the 7th or are a priority undrafted free agent. And so I compiled a list of 14 names plus the 2 which I would consider unexpected fallers to make a grand total of 16-person UDFA class. And I posted that again on Twitter and Blue Sky. So go check that out. It's just a lot of fun to put predictions out there, obviously, to see where you come out in the end and how many you got right and how many you got wrong. And it's just it's a way to start up a conversation. It's a good talking point. So anyway, I hope you enjoy that. I hope you check it out and enjoy that. So let's get to my official prediction for the Vikings draft, okay? And right off the bat, my prediction is for the first round pick is that we do not make a first round pick. My prediction is that we trade out of the 24th pick and we actually trade all the way out into the early second round. That is my official prediction. Now, there's a million different ways that this draft can go, honestly. And so what I've done is I've basically just boiled it down to 2 options for me that I would be satisfied with. I would be extremely disappointed if the Vikings stayed at 24, and it has nothing to do with the player that we would get at 24, because I'm sure it would be a phenomenal player, whether it be a Gray Zabel or a Malachi Starks or a Tyler Booker or whatever the case may be. Some just like, or a Derek Harmon, right, or a Kenneth Grant. Lots of really super talented guys that are supposed to be available at 24. I would not be disappointed in getting one of those players. My disappointment would be if this was a normal draft class for us where we had all of our picks and we had another pick coming up in the second round and we could use that pick to then trade down into the middle rounds, because this is a really strong middle round draft. if we could use a second round pick to get more picks in that mid range, I would be fine. Okay, yes, take the best player you can get at 24, get down to that second round pick, and then start moving back. But because we don't have a pick until pick 97, the value of a trade down at 97, it just diminishes so much. You would get way more if you tried to move down from 24. 97 is really only going to get you an additional pick or two. Maybe in the 5th, maybe in the 6th, maybe in the 7th. And yeah, you get a couple more shots at some decent players there. A couple guys maybe you thought you didn't have a chance at with your UDFAs, but I really would be disappointed if we did not trade out of 24. And so if we end up sticking and picking at 24, I'm not going to state any players, but I will say this, depending on who they take at that pick, we don't know who it'll be. There really are 6 positions, so I hope they get up to 6 picks in this draft. There are 6 positions that I really feel should be the priority, and that would be offensive guard, running back, defensive lineman, right tackle, or end. I think I would like a guy who's versatile, who can play both nose and end. I would like to get an inside linebacker. I'd like to get a tight end, and honestly, I'd like to get a safety. So those are the 6 positions I would like them to address. If they stick and pick at 24, then fine. Move down a little bit from 97. Gain 2 more picks, get 6 picks total for the draft, and address those 6 positions. So that's kind of version 1, right? The stick and pick version, okay? Not something, again, I'd be disappointed if they do that, but I acknowledge that it is 50-50 that it could happen. So here is my official prediction version 1, which is trading down once. My other versions can be trading down twice. So my first version is trading down once, trading down somewhere into the early 2nd round, and grabbing Donovan Jackson, the guard out of Ohio State. That he feels like he's going to be available in that range, and he feels like the best fit, and he could just literally plug and play right into our offensive line and make our line potentially a top 5 line right away. And that's really exciting. And I really feel like it fits the agenda of the team. It feels like, I don't know if the KOC will ever truly be a run-heavy team, and have the same philosophies as like a Mike Zimmer, but I think he would be more willing to even it out if it was obvious that he had the personnel capable of having a really dominant running game. And of course, that helps JJ McCarthy in his early development. So Donovan Jackson, early 2nd round. And I'm not going to fuss around with actual trade partners and actual picks being traded and things like that, because it's just going to get kind of convoluted and it's going to kind of muddy up the conversation. So I'm just kind of saying, hey, this is kind of the range where I think we're going to be. The trade will work itself out, right? Okay, so then next up in this version, the single trade down, I have us somewhere in the late 3rd round, maybe to mid to late 3rd round. Is this the first? Yeah. Sorry, I got a little bit lost there. Okay, so then the next pick that I'd like for us to look at in the mid to 3rd is Torrey Horton, the wide receiver out of Colorado State. He's a really talented receiver, really great route running, really kind of a go-to guy in that offense, and he's also a phenomenal punt returner. And that's something I'm really hoping they focus on in this draft, is both punt returner and kick returner, because while you do have a guy like a Ty Chandler who can return kicks right now, I really don't feel like he's necessarily going to be a part of the 53-man roster when the time comes. And then, like, for instance, maybe like Jalen Naylor can return punts. But again, that's just somebody I don't really want filling that role. So beyond that, of course, you have Rondale Moore, but we don't really know about his health, right? We don't really know how his knee's going to hold up. So there's so many question marks heading into the season at both return spots that I think it'd be smart to prioritize getting both an above average, at the very least, punt returner and kick returner in this draft. And I feel like Torrey Horton fills that punt return role. Okay, next up, this would be kind of maybe the late 3rd to early 4th round. I'm looking at Bayshul Tootin. He'd be the kick returner, right? And I know that there's a lot of noise out there about Brashard Smith, and honestly, I put him down as one of the 5 guys that I think we're going to draft, because there's just been a lot of talk between Vikings and Brashard Smith. But Bayshul Tootin is a Bayshul Tootin with Virginia Tech. He is more of a 2-down guy with kick return skills, and I just think when it comes to Smith, he's kind of more of a 3rd down back. And I think when comparing running backs, I would rather have a guy who can play on multiple downs as opposed to a 3rd down back. Because Smith, he'd be competing for 3rd down opportunities with like Aaron Jones and CJ Ham. We don't really know if he's that proven as a pass protector. I haven't really looked that deep into him, but I do know that he can return kicks. And so, speaking both Smith and Tootin. So Smith will come up in the other version of the draft, but for now I'm going with Tootin. He's a 2-down guy. He can return kicks. That's who I would get at running back. Next up, this is actually probably the one guy I'm really pounding the table for in this draft, and it's J.J. Pegues, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. And I see him maybe like late 4th, early 5th round. The thing that I love so much about this guy is, number one, he has a phenomenal swim move at the nose position, and he can literally play every single position along an odd front defensive line. In addition to that, he also has a lot of experience as a short down running back in that Ole Miss offense. I watched a plethora of highlights of him taking either direct snaps or handoffs and plunging ahead and getting first downs and touchdowns. And I mean, and he showed a lot of ability as a running back. And so again, if this is a case of the team really prioritizing the run game, I think a guy like Pegues coming in kind of like an old refrigerator Perry in that kind of a way, I mean, who can stop him, right? I mean, if the offensive line is going to be as good as we think it is, and you have a guy that big and that agile, picking up those short yard. I mean, it could be like our version of the tush push, right? Where it's like, it's so dominant, we just pick up those first downs every time, or those touchdowns every time. And so that's something that's really intriguing to me. And then you throw on top of the fact that he's a really interesting defensive tackle prospect as well. And you can wait on him to develop because you're good for right now. So if you don't necessarily need Pegues to play a lot of snaps this year, that's fine. We don't need that. We can develop him, and then maybe he can step into a starting role next year. All right, so next up we have, now this one's kind of interesting. So I have this kind of 5th, 6th round. I don't really know how to play this. This is where I want inside linebacker and tight end. So I have kind of 2 different versions of what's going to happen here. I'm either going to go Mitchell Evans, tight end out of Notre Dame, and Cody Lindenberg, the linebacker out of Minnesota, or if, say, one of those 2 guys is gone or something doesn't work out, then you can maybe go like Thomas Fedone and then Jack Kaiser. Now, Kaiser's a guy, he's another guy I've identified as a guy I think we're really going to go after. He seems to just really fit our needs. I really feel like Asamoah is a guy we need to replace going forward, and I think Kaiser's perfect. He's just a classic inside linebacker, more of a downhill guy, but he's a 4-core special teamer, and I think he would actually improve upon the kind of special teams play we've been getting out of Asamoah. And I just think in terms of just character and things like that, I think he's a perfect fit for the team. And so I've really identified him as a player the Vikings could and should go after. So again, that combination would be, we're in the 5th and 6th round. It's going to be tight end linebacker. It's either going to go something like Evans Lindenberg or Fedone Kaiser, something like that is what I'm kind of looking at. And then finally, you're looking at the late 6th, early 7th. I'm looking at safety here, and I'm looking at a couple of guys in Maxon Hook and Keaton Crawford. And again, these are guys that are a little bit more versatile in the defensive backfield. They can play multiple positions, and then they have special teams experience, right? And in fact, Crawford, I believe, can be another 4-core guy. I don't know if Hook has quite that much special teams experience, but either guy I think would be a really good addition to the safety room. And they don't necessarily have to make the 53 this year. They can go to the practice squad and then be a bigger part of the team, next year, if, say, Tavier Thomas doesn't, come back to the team for another year, because he's only signed for the 1 year, and he's a core. He's actually probably heading into the year as kind of our special teams ace, as far as I'm concerned. And then finally, just to wrap that up, I think, okay, if Kwesi happens to grab a late 7th round pick, which is always possible, he could go Spielman. A guy I'm really identifying, I didn't put him on my list of 5 guys because I really don't know. I haven't heard anything, no connection between the Vikings and this guy. And I really haven't noticed the Vikings really spend a lot of time on any Alabama guys. They spend a lot of time with Oregon guys and Georgia guys, but not Alabama. But James Burnip, the punter out of Alabama, is a guy I'm personally really interested in, because I just love the idea that him and Reichard worked together at Alabama. They've been teammates before, so I'm sure there's some comfort there in terms of like holding and kicking and all that. And then also, I read up on him, the Lance Zierlein write-up on him on NFL.com is that he's a high net average punter. So that's going to be an improvement upon Ryan Wright, who's kind of just a mediocre kind of a punter right now. I think this guy he offers a little bit better punting ability, in my opinion. And so I'm ready to kind of turn over that roster spot. So anyway, so that's version 1. Okay, that's the single trade down into the early 2nd round, targeting Donovan Jackson. Okay, version 2 is actually a multiple trade down scenario where I'm looking at trading back once and then trading back again out of 24, this time ending up somewhere maybe even as far down as, say, 50 in the second round. Okay, so then clearly you are risking missing out on Donovan Jackson, obviously, because he's really projected, I think, as a top 40 guy. So with the multiple trade down option, and I had made a mental note to myself to go and figure out how to pronounce these guys' names, but I forgot to do that. But there's 3 guards, 2 of which the Vikings looked at specifically, I think either as top 30 visits or pro day visits. But you have Marcus, is it Mbo, or I don't know, it's something like that. It's MBOW, and he's with Purdue. He's a guard. I could see them targeting in that kind of middle second round. There's Wyatt Milam from West Virginia, and then there's Savanea, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, with Arizona, I believe. All 3 of those guys look to be somewhere around that mid-second round, and so if you trade down twice and you miss out on Jackson, you can still get that guard that I think can still plug and play into the offensive line right away, or at the very least compete with Brandel in the mid-second. So those are 3 players I'm identifying there. So then you're coming up with more picks, and you're coming up. So, like, for instance, my second pick the first time around, right, was Torrey Horton, which was kind of like mid to late third. Well, in this case, and I actually don't really think we need corner. I think that the Asante Samuel thing is actually getting more closer to reality. I mean, we'll see. I mean, obviously, it's not even really a rumor. It's just speculation, but when you have a veteran cornerback out there still on the market who continues to go unsigned, it's at least something you have to consider. And so, but with the releasing of Najee Thompson, you've now opened up another roster spot, right? So your cornerback room's going to go about 6 guys deep. Now, before that, with Najee, because he doesn't play defense, just special teams, really your corner room was going to be more like 5 guys. And those 5 spots were kind of already spoken for. I mean, if you consider Okuda a guy who's going to make the team, I still kind of see him as a practice squad guy. But I just feel like Najee Thompson now moving on, that does kind of open up a space here. And so I have I've just put third round because I don't really know. Darian Porter is the guy I'm looking at out of Iowa State, the cornerback. And here's another guy who can step in and be a big contributor on special teams. And he's another guy that you can kind of develop. And so I think that the cornerback room is experienced enough to where Darian Porter doesn't have to play a lot of snaps, so he can just be on the team, have a special teams role, and then just develop and continue to increase his role as time goes on. So I really love his upside. I know that he only has like 1 year of tape, but I think they're just in terms of like his body type and his size and his length, and then his ability to play on special teams, I think is really intriguing and for me worthy of a 3rd round pick. All right, so the next up, so even though Pegues is kind of like my guy in this draft, the guy that I really, really want, and I'll be jealous of whoever gets him, in this case, because we've acquired more picks, because we've traded down multiple times, I'm actually looking at a guy like a Jamari Caldwell out of Oregon in kind of the late 3rd, early 4th. And again, I just have a note here saying, hey, we just assume miscellaneous trade downs. We've acquired various picks, and we've got picks and ranges where these guys are expected to go. And so this is a guy who's more of a nose, but I really have been, I don't know, I wasn't as enamored with the run defense as most people were last year, and I know the numbers showed that they had a good run defense. I think it was more because we played from ahead a lot, and teams felt like they could just slice and dice us in the pass game, and just decided to kind of move away from the run game, and it just made our numbers look better than what the play actually showed me, because I just really don't think that Harrison Phillips can play true nose. I don't see him standing up to two blockers and holding his ground. He gets pushed, out of the hole quite a bit in those scenarios. And I know there's a lot of talk about, well, he's just doing his job to free up some other guy. I'm like, well, based on what I'm seeing, I'm not so sure that's true. I just don't think he has the strength to take 2 blocks. I can't imagine there's too many times in a football game where the coach is asking a guy to take 2 blocks and then get pushed 5 yards backwards. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, scheme, sure, but I mean, you can't explain all of that away. So I would absolutely welcome a true nose tackle to the team. And, I don't think he would start right away, but I think he would definitely rotate in quite a bit. So Caldwell's a guy, I think he's out of Oregon, who I would identify in kind of the late 3rd, early 4th round. Okay, so then next up, because we missed out on Torrey Horton, another guy who can return punts that I'm looking at is Tez Johnson, who I believe is also from Oregon. Again, we looked at a lot of Oregon guys. I see him more of like a late 4th, early 5th round. He's got some upside as a receiver, but again, he's a punt returner, and that's something that we're going to need this year. Okay, so then because we're a little bit further back now, because we've taken some other players here, Baishul Tutin's probably not going to be available. So now we're looking at a guy like Brashard Smith, right? So this is really the sweet spot, I think, this kind of 3rd, 4th, 5th round, to, if you want a receiver, if you want a running back, if you want a defensive tackle, right? So Brashard Smith now comes to us in the 5th round, mid to late 5th round is what I'm looking at with him. And again, he can return kicks, and he's got some 3rd down. I mean, I'm not saying he can't play on the first 2 downs, but he would probably not play as much in the offense and be more of a specialist and a kick returner in his first year. Okay, so the next up, just because this is another guy, and again, I didn't put him in my 5, but it's another guy I'm really, really interested in, is a guy named Jack Hawes out of Georgia Tech, the tight end. He offers almost nothing in the passing game, but if the plan going forward for the Vikings is to re-sign Josh Oliver, then you're good. You have your top 2 guys in Hawk and Oliver, right? So then you can bring in a guy like a Jackson Hawes, because he's a blocking only guy, but he is a ferocious blocker, and he would just, again, he would take our running game from, what looks to be pretty good right now, and then if you add some more key pieces like a better left guard, maybe an additional running back, right, with a little bit more speed to the outside, and then a really ferocious blocking tight end on the edge. I mean, you could take a pretty good running game and make it a great running game. And then when you can run the ball like that, it's just going to make J.J. McCarthy's job so much easier. So I'm kind of predicting, like, okay, if in this second version where we traded down twice and we've taken all these other positions higher, I'm kind of predicting, okay, guys like Evans and Fedone and maybe even a guy like a Brenning Stool out of Clemson, they might be gone by now. And so I think it's an opportunity to take a guy like Hawes, who just does one thing, but he does it great, okay? So then after that, I have another 6th round pick. This is a safety. I think he might go a little bit higher than this, but he's a guy I'm identifying. Again, not a guy I mentioned in the 5 that I think we're for sure going to get, but a guy that I think they're super interested in. Another kind of sneaky one because he is from Alabama, but that's safety Malachi Moore. I think that he would be a really, really good fit into the safety room. A guy who can kind of go to the practice squad, develop, and then come in, step in and be a part of at least a rotation starting next year. And then finally, because we kind of missed out on a linebacker in the middle rounds, right, like a Jack Kaiser or a Cody Lindenberg, it gets a little bit thin. And so a guy, I think if we have a 7th round pick, is a Jackson Woodard. I'd have him in the 7th round, and he's out of UNLV. And again, it's just another really kind of strong downhill type inside linebacker who can play on special teams, and just really like his character and his toughness and stuff like that. So that basically does it. So we're about 22 minutes. So this is a nice bite-sized chunk of a show for you to enjoy. It's not an hour long anymore, and I hope that was good for you. So we had 3 different versions. We had the stick and pick. We had the trade down once. We had the trade down twice. And I'd be happiest with trade down once. I'd be happiest with that version. Then trade down twice would be my second favorite. And then, as I said, I'd be disappointed if we stick and pick. But I don't think that it's an indictment. I think I'd still be very happy with the draft overall. So anyway, with that said, I appreciate you joining me. And as always, how's it go again? Play vicious, be victorious. Peace. Thanks for watching the Regular Guy Vikings Hour. If you enjoyed this video, please interact with my content, such as liking, subscribing, or even commenting. And when you're done with that, come say hello to me over on my social media platforms. Thanks.